When we did the Indie Game Spotlight stream for February, the game that kind of surprised everyone that we played was Thrusty Ship. This was a game that was submitted by a developer that we even did a podcast with about a week later. And what we got here is perhaps one of the hardest games, I think, to really talk about if you just do a quick look at it. And instead, we have perhaps one of the most challenging games, as well as one of the most unassuming ones released this year. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So with Thrusty Ship, this is a entirely physics-driven, I guess I would like to say maybe like a platformer puzzle. Again, these is where the genre definitions get a little bit waning here. But the idea is we have 72 levels broken down into 3 worlds, ranging in terms of order of difficulty. Your ship itself is controlled very simple. You can turn it, and you can apply thrust using fuel that you see at the bottom of the screen. The second you apply any kind of thrust, or you can also do kind of like a reverse engine as well that shoots it backwards, your ship is going to go. And it is entirely physics driven. So apply a little bit, we'll send it going. If it's already moving and you apply more force, you'll be able to maintain or even increase that momentum. Hitting walls will not do anything to your ship, at least with these starting ships in the game. Your mission in each level is collect those green orbs that you see with a requirement at the top left. You need to get to the exit and ideally get through without running out of fuel. If you run out of fuel, you only have a few seconds to recover, either at a checkpoint or picking up a fuel location, or you go boom, like that. Now you can replay levels as many times as you want. There are rewards for being a level without dying and collecting all the orbs. All that gets calculated into an experience system. The better you play, the more experience you earn. The more experience you earn, the faster you will unlock more levels, as well as unlock additional ships. Each ship has its own unique, essentially, model, which determines the physics involved, as well as stats, such as how fast it can go, damage it does when it runs into things like that. But there's a reason why that what you're seeing in terms of footage right now is from World 3 of the game. Because the difficulty of this game is definitely on the higher side. As I said at the start, this is a very unassuming game, but it's also a very challenging game. And the reason has to do with the levels. And each level of Thrusty Ship is a great example of high-level design by the fact that they all have their own sense of personality to them. And this only becomes greater as you get through each of the 3 worlds. In this level that you're seeing right now, those are death lasers, and the second I touch them, I only have 1.5 seconds before my ship blows up. And as you can see, I am doing my damnedest there not to die, but there are going to be a lot of deaths in this video, and many more if you decide to play Thrusty Ship. Now, when it comes to this kind of progression, like we said, it's broken down into these 3 worlds, and this is where things get very tricky to talk about. Because if you've only played World 1 of Thrusty Ship, you will find, or you will assume that this is just some kind of quick, rich, casual mobile game, very simple, designed to get a quick buck, and that's it. The levels aren't that hard, and pretty much if you have any semblance of this kind of platform or pseudo-platforming skill, you're going to beat those levels fairly easily. It will probably take a little bit longer to do the advanced challenges, but that's not going to be too big. This, on the other hand, is just some straight up, almost Kaizo level of difficulty and frustration. And this is where things get very polarizing when talking about Thrusty Ship, because this is explicitly designed this way. I've spoken to developers several times, and nothing that you see here was done by accident. This has all been handmade to this level of difficulty, and that's what he wanted to make. And when we talk about games at this level, this is where it gets very tricky in terms of discussing difficulty as well as accessibility. But before we do that, let's do a quick shout out to our Patreon backers, and then we'll talk about that very interesting debate of getting good. And now for a quick thank you to our Patreon backers. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, you'll find our Discord channel linked down below. As there is a fine line between love and hate, there is also an even thinner line between challenging and frustrating gameplay. As we've talked about many times over, just because your game is challenging or very hard doesn't make it a good game. And getting that balance right can be very hard for designers, and I don't think Thrusty's ship gets it. But that wasn't the point of the design. As we said, when I spoke to the developer, this was explicitly designed around this level of difficulty. He built every level by hand, he's tested every level multiple times, and this was meant for a very specific kind of gamer or consumer. But just because it was designed around that level of perfection, I don't think this game is going to be that well received in terms of the market. Like I said, this may be my new example, the closest a commercially released game will get to the Kaizo level of difficulty, and also the Kaizo level of that fan base. This is a game that, if you enjoy Kaizo level difficulty, that is playing a level to the point of mastery to have any chance of winning, then Thrusty's ship is definitely for you. Hands down, you're going to enjoy it. But I don't think there's enough here for a casual player. And like I said, I don't think it was even designed for that. Like I said, the first two worlds of this game are almost deceptively simple in terms of what they expect out of the player. The difficulty in World 3 just grows. I can't even count how much of a difference it is between World 2 to World 3. And at that level of difficulty, it does become very hard to keep playing. Now, we play this on stream, and that's where the footage that you're seeing comes from. And I was in that mode of, I wanted to just, push through and see how far I could get. And while that's certainly admirable, and it certainly gets you that feeling of flow, the problem is that it's not something that makes you want to keep coming back to playing a game. At least not the general consumer. Again, somebody who loves to play a Kaizo game, I think would get the most out of this one. But it got to the point on the stream where I was just like, you know what? I am just hitting my head against the wall trying to beat these levels. I just want to keep going. And one of the great things about this game, at least from a level design standpoint, is that, like I said, every level has its own sense of personality to it. Even though the mechanic of moving your ship does not change from World 1 to World 3, what you're doing within each level certainly does. And that has a huge impact on both the level design and the difficulty. There are some levels that almost feel like getting over it in terms of having to manipulate your ship around so it can squeeze through tight corridors while not running out of fuel. Other levels are more of an obstacle course of laser beams and bumpers and even anti-gravity sections. And the game, or the mechanics of the game, are detailed enough to accommodate for all these features, and that is really impressive. Especially, I think this is one of the first, main or full titles from this developer. But like I said, extreme difficulty does not equal market success. And as you're seeing with the footage right here, it can get very frustrating to play this game. And it's that same kind of difficulty that we see in something like 1001 Spikes and again Kaizo games, that while you can certainly learn or improve at the game, it eventually will come down to essentially to you hitting a wall. Can you keep playing a level, or do you have the patience to play a level to get that quote-unquote perfect run or that solution? If you can, then you're going to be able to see a lot of Thrusty's ship, the same way as a Kaizo game. But if you don't have that patience, or if that doesn't really appeal to you, then this is not going to work for you from a gameplay perspective. Again, with a title like this, there's not a lot here that would, I guess, reward a player extrinsically through the game. You do get new ships, but this is not the same as, say, you getting some crazy new power in a action game, or a game that you defeat a boss in a Souls-like. This is entirely about how much do you want to play this game. Do you want to play this and see every one of these 72 demanding levels? Or are you going to get tired and frustrating after level, I don't know, 26, and then not play this game again? Because the game is not going to do anything to motivate you to keep playing. There are no persistent elements in this game that will make the game easier. And like I said, this was not done by accident or lack of experience. The developer made this game to be this exact way. And it's just one of those cases where you're either along for the ride or you're going to get off. And because of that, it makes it a very hard game to recommend. The footage that you've seen so far, again, is World 3. If what you've seen so far, are you thinking to yourself that you can handle all this, and you like a challenge, then you're going to enjoy Thrusty's ship. If what you've seen so far, and you're just thinking to yourself, I am never going to be able to do this in a million years, then just stay far away from this game, because it is not for you. And like I said, the developer is perfectly fine with that. But we're going to wrap things up here for this first look. This was definitely the highlight of the night, but again, I am not your general consumer, so I don't know if this looks amazing to you, or does this look like some kind of crazy gauntlet of pain. But I would like to thank the developer for submitting a game for the spotlight, and as always, if you'd like me to take a look at your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. When the podcast does go up, there will be a link to that, but otherwise, come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we simply are on science of games. Once again, this has been Thrusty's Ship, and I will see you all next time.